Hello everyone and welcome. I'm excited to start today's session with you. We'll be exploring Mega Goal 3.1, focusing on Unit 6, which is all about the gender divide. The session is titled Conversation and Listening, and I think you'll find it both interesting and insightful. Over the course of this presentation, we'll look at some key ideas around gender differences, effective communication, and listening skills. So let's get started and dive into this important topic together. Let's take a look at slide 2. Here, we're focusing on some key steps to help us understand and practice effective communication. First, we have read the conversation for specific information. This means carefully going through the dialogue to identify important details. Next, we move to answer some comprehension questions about the conversation, which helps ensure we've understood the main points. Then we practice using real talk in correct sentences so we can communicate more naturally. After that, we listen to rising and falling intonation on tag questions, which is crucial for understanding and using questions properly. We also have practice with words that have the correct meaning, reinforcing our vocabulary skills. Lastly, we match words to their correct meanings, completing the circle of understanding. All of these steps are designed to improve our listening, speaking, and comprehension skills, which are essential for effective communication. Let's take a look at this slide. First, the question is, how many people are there? The answer is 3. Now, before we dive into the main content, imagine a driver using a GPS to find their way. This is about Google Maps, a tool many of us rely on daily. Now, I want you to think about what this conversation might be about. What do you see in the picture? This visual helps us understand how people interact with technology like Google Maps to navigate their world. This slide introduces the idea of how digital tools assist us in everyday tasks, connecting to our overall theme of how technology impacts our daily lives. It's a simple example, but it highlights the importance of these tools in helping us communicate, find directions, and stay connected. So, in this part of the story, we see that he is annoyed and doesn't want to talk about it anymore. This shows that he's feeling irritated or upset about the situation, and he's choosing to shut down the conversation instead of continuing to discuss it. It's important to notice how his body language and tone might reflect this annoyance, emphasizing that he's reached his limit. Now, when Faisal says, "Don't make a big deal about it," how does he feel? Well, based on his words, it seems like he's trying to downplay the situation or maybe dismiss the concerns. But from his tone and the context, we can infer that he's feeling a bit annoyed as well. He's probably frustrated that the issue is being blown out of proportion, but he's also trying to keep things calm. And then, when Fahd responds with, "You can say that again," it indicates that he agrees strongly with Faisal. It's like he's emphasizing the point, and he's feeling pretty confident or even amused. This exchange highlights how feelings and perceptions can align or escalate in conversations, especially when emotions are involved. Connecting this to the overall theme, it's a good reminder that how people express their feelings, whether through words or tone, significantly impacts the dynamics of a conversation. Recognizing these cues helps us understand not just what's being said, but how it's being felt. Faisal is here and he's saying, "Who says?" implying he's questioning or challenging a common assumption. Then he adds, "Make a big deal about," which suggests he's highlighting how some people tend to overemphasize certain things. Fahd, on the other hand, responds by saying, "Who says?" as well, but he then emphasizes, "For ages," pointing out that this has been going on for a long time. He also mentions, "Know this town like the back of my hand," indicating a deep familiarity with the place and perhaps a confidence in his knowledge. The attendant then chimes in, and Fahd responds again with, "Who says?" followed by "You can say that again," which is a way of agreeing strongly or emphasizing a point. Overall, this exchange showcases how different perspectives challenge assumptions and highlight expertise or long-standing beliefs. It ties into our broader theme of understanding perceptions versus reality, and recognizing the value of experience and questioning what's taken for granted. Let's take a moment to read the words and their meanings on this slide. This is a great opportunity to deepen our understanding of key terms that are fundamental to our discussion. As we go through each term, I'll explain what it means in context and why it's important. By doing this, we're building a solid vocabulary that will help us better grasp the concepts we're exploring. Remember, understanding these words thoroughly will make the rest of our presentation more meaningful and easier to follow. So, let's go through them carefully and connect these definitions to our overall theme of effective communication and learning. So, what did he actually say? Well, he emphasized that he knows the city like the back of his hand. That's a phrase we often hear to mean someone is very familiar with a place. But then, he also said he knows the city as the back of his hand, highlighting just how well he understands it, almost as if he's part of it. Interestingly, he repeats that he knows the city like the back of his hand, which reinforces his deep familiarity and confidence. This repetition isn't just stylistic. It underscores the importance of local knowledge when navigating or understanding a place. It ties into the overall theme of expertise and immersion, showing that true mastery comes from knowing every corner, every detail, as if it's second nature. So, in essence, he's communicating that his connection to the city is profound, something we all aspire to achieve in our own fields or areas of interest. So, what is he really saying here? Well, it's about how we interpret and respond to repeated messages. You can say it again, and that often emphasizes the importance or urgency of what's being communicated. When someone repeats themselves, it's usually to ensure that their point is understood. You can say that again, meaning, yes, I agree, and I see what you mean. Then, you can say this again, which highlights how repetition can reinforce a message, making it stick in people's minds. In the context of our overall theme, it's a reminder that the way we communicate, especially through repetition, can significantly influence how our messages are received and remembered. It's about the power of clarity and emphasis in effective communication. So what did she say? Well, often when someone tries to downplay a concern or a comment, they might say, "Please don't make a big deal about it." It's a way of suggesting that whatever was said or done isn't as serious as it might seem. Similarly, you might hear, "Please don't make a big deal about that," which really emphasizes the same point, trying to minimize the importance of the issue. And we also see, "Please don't make a big deal about this," focusing on the current situation. What's important to recognize here is the pattern. People often use these phrases to gently ask others not to overreact or to treat something as less significant. It's a common way of managing social dynamics, especially when someone wants to prevent escalation or avoid drawing unnecessary attention. Understanding these subtle cues helps us grasp how communication can be used to influence perceptions and reactions. It ties back to our overall theme of navigating conversations carefully and being aware of how language shapes interactions. So let's take a closer look at what he actually said. First, we have "I waited for ages." This phrase indicates that I spent a long time waiting, emphasizing patience or perhaps frustration. Then we shift to "I wait for ages," which is in the present tense. This suggests that waiting is ongoing, highlighting a habitual or current situation. Lastly, "I waiting for ages" is grammatically incorrect, but it might be a common mistake learners make when trying to use continuous tense. The key idea here is understanding how tense and verb forms change the meaning of what we're communicating. Recognizing these differences helps us express ourselves clearly and accurately, especially when talking about time and actions. This ties into our overall theme of language use and communication. Being precise with these details makes a big difference in how our message is received. So at this point, Fahd is actually glad that they stopped, because stopping gave them a moment to reassess. On the other hand, Faisal isn't happy about it. He's feeling frustrated or impatient. The reason for this difference in reactions is that they were looking for the wrong street name all along. Fahd's relief comes from the realization that stopping might help them correct their course. Meanwhile, Faisal's frustration grows because stopping might feel like a setback to him. This situation highlights an important concept in problem solving. Sometimes, pausing and reassessing can be beneficial, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. Fahd's willingness to stop and ask for directions reflects an openness to adapt and find the right solution. Conversely, Faisal's reluctance to ask for help shows how stubbornness or impatience can hinder progress. Remember, in any challenge, being flexible and seeking guidance when needed can save time and frustration. This moment ties into our overall theme of effective navigation, whether literally or metaphorically, by emphasizing the importance of correct information and the willingness to ask for help when you're off track. Let's take a closer look at these statements. The first one is true, which indicates that this point aligns with our data or understanding. The second one is also true, reinforcing that these initial concepts are solid. Now, moving to the third statement, it's marked false, reminding us that not everything fits perfectly, and we need to scrutinize our assumptions carefully. The fourth and fifth statements are again true, emphasizing that some ideas consistently hold true across different contexts. However, the sixth and seventh are false, highlighting areas where misconceptions might arise or where further investigation is needed. Overall, these points underscore the importance of critical thinking and validation in our process, ensuring that we're basing decisions on accurate and reliable information. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. All right, let's walk through the key points on this slide. Starting with the letter B, which represents the foundational concept we discussed earlier, how essential it is to build a strong base for any project. Moving to F, where we see the importance of flexibility in our approach. Being adaptable allows us to respond to unforeseen challenges effectively. Then there's H, highlighting the need for a holistic perspective, considering all aspects rather than just isolated parts. Next is G, emphasizing the role of growth and continuous improvement in sustaining success over time. The C point reminds us to stay connected, fostering collaboration and open communication within teams. A stands for alignment, ensuring that everyone's efforts are directed towards common goals. E brings attention to the importance of evaluation, regularly assessing our progress to make informed adjustments. Finally, D underscores the value of dedication, remaining committed and resilient even when faced with obstacles. Together, these points form a cohesive framework that supports the overall message of our presentation. Success is a blend of strong fundamentals, adaptability, collaboration, continuous growth, and perseverance. They're all interconnected, and keeping these principles in mind helps us stay on track and achieve our objectives effectively. All right, let's take a look at what we've got on slide 15. First, I want to point out that the workbook reference, page 282, is where you'll find the detailed exercises related to today's content. Be sure to review that for a deeper understanding. Now, moving on to exercise G. This is a practical way to apply what we've discussed, so I encourage you to give it a try. Remember, completing these exercises helps reinforce your learning and prepares you for real-world application. Lastly, we've included homework assignments to keep you engaged and to ensure you're integrating these concepts into your daily practice. The key takeaway here is that consistent practice, whether through exercises or homework, is essential for mastering these skills. So, I encourage you to approach these tasks thoughtfully, as they are designed to strengthen your understanding and confidence in the material we've covered.